Customer-centric organization is a mindset. I really want to emphasize this one. It's really the mindset is the culture of empowerment that allow employee to do the right thing. And it's not about policy, it's not about procedure, it's not about process. Those will never drive centricity. If you are serious about bringing CX and be a customer-centric organization, you have to build it in a way that allow from the top, make it one of the three core values of the company.
Hello and welcome to a whole new episode of Engati CX. I'm your host Aish, and we're really glad to have all of you join us today. On this show, we talk to CX and technology experts from all over the world. We explore, uncover, and share fresh insights on creating experiences that your customers will remember and look forward to. Engati is the world's leading multilingual no-code digital CX platform. Available across 14 channels with 45,000 solutions created across 186 countries in every domain and use case. Engati has also been recognized as a top platform by Inc. magazine, Tech World, CIO magazine, and many others. We run the Engati blog, video channel, and the Engati CX podcast, receiving upwards of 400,000 visitors annually. And now for our guest. Musa Hanhan is the founder and managing partner of Xperiente, a consulting agency that helps its clients create better experiences. Musa is a tireless advocate for a great customer and user experience with over 20 years of experience. He's a creative customer experience executive leader. He creates a world-class customer experience that is exhibited in many and past successes in designing and engineering solutions that have enhanced customer trust and loyalty. So welcome to the show, Musa. We're really excited to talk to you today.
Thank you. My pleasure. It's an opportunity for me to talk to you.
But before we dive into our interview with Musa, don't forget to subscribe to Engati and tap the bell icon to get access to exclusive content from thought leaders from around the globe. So let's start off with my first question. Musa, what are the successful ways of establishing long-term relationships with customers through the development of effective customer experience techniques?
Wow, that's a good question to start with. Let me break it down a little bit around two things. Let's take the customer consideration, what they think about a long-term relationship. They're going to be looking at to do that. I am getting value from this relationship, because one of the things important is that when we have any relationship, there is some type of value. It's looking at it from different angles. Second thing, the company, does the company makes me feel special and they know me? And this is a critical around all the things that we're going to be talking about around CX. Am I getting a quick response when the company create an issue or there's things get bad? This is important because we are not perfect. And more importantly, how to react to that and solve it or result it in a way that's satisfactory for the customer. Does the company makes me feel as part of the community and getting useful information on a way that more effective and not junk mail? Because it's very important that there's a couple things here that, and right now especially, is I want to belong to someone. I want to belong to this brand. And we've seen that. And what we need to be able to say as a designers, as a customer experience practitioners, is how are we going to be able to connect with the customer, consumer, patients, citizens? One of the things that's important is understanding that, because that understanding what the customer value, it's where we say, all right, how effective the CX techniques that we want to apply are going to be able to use to enhance that long-term relationship. As we, one of the things is knowing the customer. I know it's probably every single of us in CX to say, and we'll talk about know your customer. Literally, you need to know them really good. This is important because it's not about just to know the customer, gather all this data without understanding a little bit more about the personal, their wants and needs and their behaviors, their values, their anticipation, understanding what their habits. These are things that are important to know that allow us next thing to be able to address the journey mapping. Understanding that in terms of when we know the customer, we need to drill down even further to know a little bit about what kind of, are they our value functionality, or are they our value economic or experiential, or a status when I am interacting with the company? Because that allow as well understanding how you're going to be able to map the experiences to, and knowing that because customers are not equal and they are not the same. Their preferences is not the same. Knowing that, so when you design these experiences and understanding the customer values and what they are, it's allow you to that connection, that bring that connection that allow to address as we building that, because that's what we talk about connecting experience. This is the ultimate where you be able to deliver a personalized experience. I feel when a brand send me something or I interact with them anytime, oh wow, they know me. When the minute I use my phone number, they said, Mr. Hanhan, we know you. This is the issues that you have. Here's how we're going to fix it. Here's the opportunity. Oh, you bought this, you get that. So these are things important because that allow us to build that long-term relationship. And you have that trust. With doing all of that, it's all about the data. So putting that data and the CX insights that allow you to start structure it in a way that you can build understanding of the persona. And it's not just persona as such persona, a generic persona, not the person, him or herself in terms of understanding what she likes to buy, what she liked, what kind of service, understanding that allow things to merge and build on and building that relationship. The third technique, and I'm gonna give a little bit more of that, is the big umbrella. I call it big umbrella because it's CX, it's a mindset.
Definitely.
And it very important is that understanding that, because a lot of time people treat CX as a program or as a project that if anyone does that, forget about it. It's not CX. It's a mindset. This is where employees are empowered to do the right thing for the customer. And we can spend an hour talking about the culture and centricity, but it just understanding that, allow that connection, understanding that mindset, the employees are empowered and they know the right thing, how to connect with customers, address issues if there are issues, or even innovate and provide solutions. So these are things that are important to do that, and to create that mindset. It's really around effective communication, constant communication with employees, as well with the customers, and the training that require and the right tools give to empower the employee to do that. It's not script. If you do a script, I mean, that it doesn't have that feeling. You don't connect on an emotional level, and then you lose that understanding of the connected experience that build on around to do the long-term relationship.
Definitely. I wanted to ask you something. You mentioned the sense of community. Do you think that's been amplified because of the pandemic, this need for brands to connect with their customers and to make a community?
Oh yeah. I mean, last year give us the crystal ball how we become a customer centricity, or customer centric, I should say. It's because these are important as last year, and of course we are still living in it now. Allow the belonging, the community, and what believe in the companies and the organizations. It's really they understood, and I hope everybody understood that. If not, they are going to be left behind. Yeah, and it's going to be more and more. I mean, look at the brands that succeeded last year. Amazing. They did a great job because they are understood, because they have already the infrastructure. They have already the mindset around how to serve their customers, because they know exactly what it means to be customer-centric culture, have that mindset. They empower their employee to deliver what it takes to the customer.
Definitely. So according to you, what is the ideal way to become customer-centric while remaining profitable?
Well, just to connect what we just talked about in terms of all of the build relationship, building, community and belonging. Customer, they look at really, it's trust, it's empathy, it's easy to do business. These are things they are looking at. This is our things that, I mean, we are consumers. So we want to be able to do business. Then you want to build that relationship, but also on a trusted relationship. You want to do that. You want to deliver the empathy to customers and make it easy for them. And it makes a lot of sense. And then look at what happened even last year. We bring that back to last year. Is the whole digital sense of to make it easy how to access to information or to buy, to sell, to do service. And we are here right now. We are doing Zoom. So thinking about that, it's allowed to understand how these things working together. And it's more and more, actually, customers are keen, by the way. I mean, a couple of years ago, Salesforce put a CX research report, and it says that 93% of customers says trust a company make them more likely to recommend that company or that brand. So think about that for a second, that when we recommend companies, that's awesome, because what happened is, back to the profitability, back to the business, retention and repurchase power, it increase. The cost of serve and the cost of acquisition, it's lower. So doing that, and you're able to track it using the customer life value, that to see how the profitability comes in by the loyalty of your customers, pretty much you can do the math. I mean, these are the things that's very important, because it allow to connect. A lot of time people say, oh, I don't want to invest in this and that in CX because it doesn't bring value, but it does. If you structure the practice in a way that allow you to deliver value, as well you measure and allow you to see the benefit. And it's important to understand it's a long-term strategy. It's not short-term. It's that you don't invest in, today and you expect tomorrow the return on CX initiatives. So it's important that there's a balance. But eventually, as we notice, again, bringing last year, that the organization and the companies that deliver well, it's pretty much profitable. I mean, they are doing that. I think on the second question you mentioned, how organization design, is that the second question? Remind me. I'm kind of.
I was gonna ask you follow up on this. So,
right. All right.
So how can organizations really design customer interactions that exceed expectations?
Yeah. So I mean, it's really a couple of things. Let's bring the mining the data, because this is one of the things that important, and it's a buzzword right now. We talk about it all the time. It's collecting the data, but it's important to understand what you are collecting. What's your objective of collecting data? Because there's a lot of data. collecting that data, identify the trend, the drivers, knowing the customer that allow to deliver experiences that match their expectation. Because one of the things, as we talked about, knowing the value, knowing who they are, what they like, what they don't dislike, what kind of behavior they have, or what kind of purchase power they have, and allow that data comes in and organize it in a way that you lay out, knowing that your customers, this group of customers, they are doing this or segment of that really allow to be able to design experiences specific to that individual. I mean, this is where it comes narrow to that level. Is not just a group as we talk about it. You have a group understanding or segment understanding, but also there is an understanding of individual consumer or individual customer that allow you to deliver that. So there's a couple of things that important when you do this stuff and we design. You have all these data, and you will be able to map these data to the journeys and start thinking about how you optimize it, how you're going to be able to look at understanding the touch points, understanding the channels, understanding the moment of truth that matter to customers. So maybe some customer, they care about this touch point, but not the other one because they don't do that. So there's no cookie cutter kind of type, because this is the beauty in customer experience, whereas the design, that really the art and science come together, and that those are important. That understanding that, I mean, again, and keep in mind that when you do all of that, guess what? You're not going to deliver everything for everyone.
Right.
So it's important that you are going to be able to narrow understanding to which target you want to be able to address. Otherwise, your experience becoming, random, and by doing that, your brand is going to suffer. So it's important that back to look at all these angles, all these dimensions of the customer that allow you, when you build that's where you get the connection of it. And it's important because those are things that allow you to bring value further, I mean, in terms of the to the company, but also to the customers as well. One thing, I mean, even back to the Salesforce research, it says that 82% of customers or consumer willing to pay higher price for a greater experience.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the price is not the main driver.
Right.
It's about to talk about that differentiating interactions. It's allow that to bring that understanding, design the connectiveness of the of the experience with the customers, that allow to bring value, allow to be belonging to a brand and community. That it's where you differentiate your
Mm-hmm.
product and services actually as well.
Yes, definitely. I've been reading a lot of research about this. Yeah, it's interesting to say that now the competitive edge is going to be less about the product itself, but more to do with the experience.
True. Very true, because product, you can do product, technology and really normalized pretty much everything. And the service, everybody does build that. It's really the combined understanding, and this is where you start talking about experience.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about just one thing. It's not just it's allow you to really to start mapping the different way of delivering. For example, I deliver experience to you might be different than experience to someone else. Mm-hmm. And that is where personalization comes in a big way right now. And we're gonna, it's quite a bit. It is require intensive and deliberate and understanding, and then also deliberate way of designing experiences.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Going back to this, I feel like, anyone, let's take the example of like an amusement park. Like anyone can kind of make an amusement park, but then what makes Walt Disney World? Like everyone, that's like the gold standard good experience.
Yeah. Well, because because of what they know exactly. I mean, they are look at it from their empowering their employee, their training, and they allow them to see exactly how that look and feel and everything. Because people go there to enjoy, and they want to make them a memorable moment. And to do that, you have to be able to do that. I mean, that's think about why people, they go to there. Yeah, it's, and a lot of people, they talk about it 10, 15 years, because that it's stay in the memory. And to do that, it's require design that experiences deliberately.
Definitely. So how can we effectively develop strategic plans that provide the best course of action for creatively solving complex customer issues while adopting operational excellence best practices?
Well, now talking about the real work, right? So in my experience, I'm going to talk about this one a little bit more on my experience, and I'm sure probably other people, they have different way of doing it. I find that to address this complex customer issues and ensure have operation excellence is that you want to create a CX governing body. And its member are from each department or line of business of the company.
Right.
And this group, it's really looking at it broader, from end to end, from the CX, I would say, initiatives or experiences. And they are the empowered from their individual departments to prioritize and manage the CX initiatives. So the key here is to have a body that structured in a way that they enable the team to make decisions. And to do that, because one of the things that as we are, as an operation, feedback comes in, priority comes in. So how are you going to be aligning all of that stuff? How are you going to be, especially in the big companies? By doing that, allow that there is, a very structured governing body, and allow that mechanism to work and allow to see and align, because the governing body, they understood, was the priority for the customer. Again, it's not individual, because as we know here, it's that when the benefit of having that body, it's really bring everyone, especially product, service, marketing, sales, that they can see and look at the customer, not at their department, and to say, here's my priority, here's what I'm going to deliver, versus to say, oh, well, this is the customer, this is the challenge they have, here's the opportunities they have, and we want to be able to innovate. Then in this case, you have this an alignment. And I'm saying that because it's important that the more alignment, I mean, we are not perfect here. I'm not going to say 100%, but the more aligned the objectives and priority, the better execution, the better understanding what you're going to deliver to customers. And that it's important, because when you do the execution, it's everybody knows, understand why, what are the benefit, and who the customer that they are going to benefit of that. Because they know this customer is going to get this one, but this customer is not getting it, because this is how we are going to be focusing on. So it's important that allow that, and as I mentioned, alignment is the key that allow with that. Another thing that I also always like on the operation side, because sometimes operation, they are focused on project and delivery and execution and dashboard and all of that. It's all good, but you want to be able to bring the customer stories in the fold, because that's where you tie back to why we are doing this one, and is and that it's important. So one of the operation and definitely the practice, what I have seen, in the last decade, the best practice I have seen, it's really the NPS system.
Oh, right.
Because it's really allowed to structure and organize. And there's part of it is the outer loop, which is, back to addressing the complexity of, issues, from gathering information to bring it to a level that centralized, review it, and, and decide, triage it and look at it, or prioritize it. Or the governing body we'll talk about allow the, to have that execution and delivery, and then managing and monitoring the progress and communicate to the customers back and to the employees as well. So definitely MPS system is one of the best practices I have seen on and delivering an excellent operation, what we call it operational excellence.
I love this idea about having a CX governing body where where the head of each department, well, not necessarily the head, but someone from each department comes in. I think a lot of organizations kind of forget that CX isn't just a department, it's more of a culture, and it's something that can't operate in silos. Even when it comes to product design, like the marketing team can only understand so much, but they actually need to sit in with the product and understand what they're marketing.
Exactly. And then also sit down with the service and see what's going on, how your product has been used, and then allow you to get it back feedback. And the same thing, how you position it to have sales, because sometimes if each one has its own priority, you get that disjoint.
Definitely. And even understanding, the only person who's going to really understand what the customers are saying are the people in the front line. So your service representatives. And I think a lot of people forget that there's a lot of useful data over there that can be used to enhance your product. I think it only goes to the C-suite, but I think it needs to go to everyone, all the heads.
I agree. Totally. And it's important that also, this is always underestimated, that the front line, they have so much information.
Right.
They know a lot, and you got to tap on their effort, because they are the one who's dealing in, day out. And it's important to gather that information, because that's where you bring that information back and collect it as well. I see it as a very valuable information that should be collected.
So moving on to my next question, Musa, what are some customer-centric thinking tips for inside the organization that can drive continuous customer experience improvement?
All right, this is continuing to our discussion of the previous question. It's continuing improvement. It's a habit. So it's important that, because sometimes we talk about it quite a bit in our CX space, how we continue improvement. It's a habit. I mean, this is how we, like when you do exercise, it's a habit. And as I mentioned, as customer feedback is a very powerful a story that you want to tell. Bringing the operation closer to the customer allow really to bring that story life. It's that give you that connection. It give you that connection to when they hear the customer what they are saying, or you read what they're verbatim, or what they are bracing the person or complaining. It's really that bring that and to connect all that feedback and to the employee day-to-day work. It's important to show how individual employee impacting the customer experience. I always, when I talk to engineering in my previous company, I do just map to say your code impacting the customer experience. Because this is how the steps goes around to map that code to the experience that customer are having on the product, on the service, on the company, on the brand. So by connecting that, it just this is really to allow that back to the mindset, back to the habit, that you can bring those drive, because becoming is not you have to do it, it's you want to do it. Another thing I seen, it's really about close the loop when you get actionable feedback. How many times do you get surveys and there's nothing happen? I mean, this is right. But allowing to build that system, a closed loop, and every time, regardless if it's positive or negative, it's actionable feedback. You bring that closer and you connect to the customer, understanding more about it, understanding what are things that required, and then bring it back, because that it's the movement. This is the feeding, how to improve a little by little the experience. And then also, anytime you deliver a product or a new service or a new product you want to introduce, you want to go back and let the customer so they can give you feedback early on. It's not just when everything is out and you forget about it. Early on, it's important to keep the customer, and even better, you need to bring the customer in the co-design for your product and services. That's where allow you even to give you more ideas and more way of to say, here's how we do things, here's how we interact with, here's what we like, we don't like. And because one of the things when you bring that, this is where you build the improvement as you go. And that, I think the more you do that, it's the better. And lastly, it's empowering. As we say, empowerment is a key. The minute you do that, the empowerment allow the employee to do the right thing for customers.
Definitely. It ties in with something that I wanted to ask you as well. When building products, obviously it's very important to keep the customer in mind. So how can businesses really anticipate the customer's needs and future challenges when designing product, or just in general?
Well, I mean, that is where start around, because when you bring them in the co-design, you start understanding what they value. And understanding that it's really important, because that's where you start building the product or that meet the requirement to the right customers. And also you start thinking about how they're going to be using it, how they're going to interacting, how they're going to feel about it, who's going to be talking to. And it's important because that's where allow you to understand what it takes to do that. I mean, think about it. Understanding the value is important. It's that because sometimes there are things that we care about economic value. You go and have or you're gonna go in a functional value, meaning you want to have a cup of coffee when you're standing in a cafe. There's no ambiance. There's no like Starbucks $5, right? Just a cup of coffee, and you get it, and you move on. Or is it kind of like experiential, like you buying your makeup from Sephora? I mean, I have to give a credit for Sephora. I mean, they are not paying me here, so but I have to say it's just that they are really doing a great job how to they knowing that. And one of the statistics, the stats that I've seen is like they are growing their mobile sales by 167% for paying attention to the customer expectations. Amazing. Kudos to them. So it's one of those things. And some other segment of customers, or some customer, they value the status. I have Nike. I am in Nike marathon community, so you can feel there's a belonging and the status. So it depends. So I'm listing that because that allow the product and the service owners to understand what it takes to deliver exception. And it's not just about using it, it's about have that experience. I mean, I don't want to bring Apple again, but they are master in that. So when you have the iPhone, the new iPhone 12, oh my God, you feel it. You don't want to give it to anybody. So that's that's attachment, and that it's where it's important. The more you know about the people you are selling or providing service to, or experience to, the more you know, the better to deliver exceptional, and that's what matters. This is the future. Anticipate because that's all. That's the future. To know what the customer want to know next.
Do you think defining journey maps will help in understanding these and anticipating these needs?
Oh, for sure. I mean, this is so one of the things that's important also. We've been using journey mapping for a while, but I think it's now becoming more important that how you're going to take it to the next level. Journey mapping is not generic journey as a lot of times we talk about it. It's really about personalized, how you're going to design personalized journeys. And I can see the AI is going to be a power to do that because now, yes, you build a journey, but also how you're going to build those smaller and smaller targeting journeys as personalized journeys. And AI can help build that allow to design that experience, that's connected experience to it. So yeah, I for sure. I mean, when I started in journey about 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago, everybody's like, yeah, we do these steps and let's say, have a stickies and voila, we got the journey and we get excited about it. Good for that time, not good for this time, because you want to be able really to narrow. And that's where it's important that you want to operationalize the journey mapping. And there are things that more around building blocks to say, here's the big one, but how you can bring those smaller ones and tie that together so you can bring it and operationalize. I see the journey mapping exercise that in the next few years is going to be the blueprint of the business, because that's where the interaction, this is where the experience and the interaction is going to be with all the with the brand, and understanding that it's pretty much the blueprint, and you want to be able to not just do it one time thing. It's a yet another. It's a practice. It's allow you to bring these in the continuous basis, and that's back to previous question. How in terms of the improvement, continued improvement. That's part of it as well.
Definitely. I think organizations also need to consider that not every journey is linear. A lot of people kind of stay within the decision phase, and then sometimes people move from being a purchaser to being an advocate and then back. Like there's a lot of back and forth. I think every organization needs to consider that and keep sort of backup plans in mind.
Oh yeah, definitely, because definitely. I mean, our life is not linear. So think about it as a journey. Yeah, so you gotta be able truly to. Yeah, definitely. You want to be able. I think it's evolving, and so one of the things that I think we're going to see, and the help of the data and AI, allow us to be able to print that picture around how the human being interact. And by interacting, meaning it's not linear, interacting back and forth, in and out. And in able to do that, you design those experiences and those journeys, and that's allowed to, it's better form, because end of the day, you want to be able to bring it to a level to employee that they can empower to do the right thing for customers. And I always give an example on that. It's look at mom and pop stores. They know everyone. They know about their history, the customer history, what they, so think about that level of sophistication for scale, for enterprise. And I think, we will see more and more of that, the adoption of having that the companies recognize that they have to sell on an individual personalized way, and it is not mass. Stop sending those junk mails to everyone.
Definitely. So moving on to my last question, are there any sound bites or thoughts you'd like to leave our audience with?
How about two? Yeah, I could do more, but let me. I'm trying to think here. I just want to try to bring back that customer-centric organization is a mindset. I really want to emphasize this one. It's really the mindset is the culture of empowerment that allow employee to do the right thing. And it's not about policy, it's not about procedure, it's not about process. Those will never drive centricity. And it's important that if you are serious about bringing CX and be a customer-centric organization, you have to build it in a way that allow from the top, make it one of the 3 core values of the company and drive that culture.
Mm-hmm.
Second, customer-centric organization, it's hard work, not easy.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a lot of effort, a lot of time. So patient is the essence, and looking at it and set a long-term strategy. Excuse me. It's really required, because if you're looking for short term to adopt CX, it's not gonna work.
Mm-hmm.
With the long term, it's allow you also to be able to structure, but also to see the progress and show value of the customer experience.
Definitely. So thank you so much for sharing your insights and giving us your time, Musa. Your insights are really valuable, and I know our audience is going to enjoy this interview.
Thank you so much, and my pleasure, to allow me to talk to you and talk to the audience here, to provide a little bit of what's customer experience all about.
Thank you so much. So we'll be back with the new episode with a brand new expert soon. So stay tuned, and we'll see you around for the next one.